Welcome back to another installment of Sauce or Loss, where we find out if Chef Bandai is cooking or not. Are you sick of getting rushed down by red hybrids at your locals or regionals? Ever think you're out of lethal range and they just conjure up 2 atomic infernos out of thin air? Or swinging security and hitting Takuya? Sweating when you hear them say, "that's 5 and trash"? Well, you may not remember, but before BT12 support we had BT7, and red hybrid was the laughingstock of the infamous hybrid meta compared to the undisputed king, blue hybrid. Koji and his light spirits were an absolute menace to the meta that had the likes of yellow hybrid and ancient gray shaking in their boots. AncientGarurumon was such an overwhelming boss monster with a powerful tamer in Koji to boot. Wait, what? Koji and his entire line were actually lost, and the true poster boy of blue hybrid was Tommy and his ice spirits? That's right. Koji and his blue hybrids were so underwhelming and were strictly outclassed by the source strip and stun gameplay style of Tommy and his ice spirits, to the point where Tommy even got limited to 1 and just recently came off the ban list. The only cards that saw any meaningful play were the Beowolfmon to recycle the ice spirits or a 1-2 of the Kendogarurumon to get rid of floodgates. Beowolfmon even got shafted by not getting an inheritable, while its fire counterpart Aldemon got ADP built in. BT7 Koji also had a significantly more difficult warp condition compared to Takuya, with the insurmountable requirement to have 5 hybrids in hand, in addition to your target boss monster AncientGarurumon. And the payoff for the warp wasn't even worth it, with both the AncientGarurumon and Koji having underwhelming effects. Even the AncientGarurumon from BT4 and promo Lobomon were underwhelming cards compared to the AncientGreymon counterpart that could easily OTK an opponent, with AncientGarurumon only seeing plays in certain variants of Gabubond. So how does the new BT17 AncientGarurumon and Light Spirit Hybrid support fare? Will Koji finally see the light of day, or like his brother, will he fall down the stairs into failure? The new Strabimon is another searcher for the deck that grabs a hybrid or ancient and a tamer with an inheritable. It also has the inheritable to play a tamer when attacking with a reduced cost of 2, which is a great way to cheat out your Kojis for cheaper. This is a strict power creep on the BT4 and BT7 Strabimons, because it is a searcher that can grab 2 with a solid inheritable that can get your tamers out. Also, with this deck in particular, when attacking effects are stronger than on deletion. This card is sauce. The new Lobomon is a blue and yellow dual colored Digimon, a first for hybrids. Interestingly, it can evolve on a Koji or a yellow tamer, so this is an additional level 4 for yellow hybrid. This is the most similar to the promo Lobomon because it has the when digivolving effect to warp into AncientGarurumon for 3 costs, if you have a Kendogarurumon in sources, or if you have a purple or black tamer or Digimon in play. End of turn, that AncientGarurumon will leave, just like Koji's mom did. The interesting thing here is the purple or black tamers or Digimon as well. We know that the BT18 set is going to be another Frontier set, and with that, most likely a retrain of AncientGarurumon. In Frontier, the spirits that make up AncientGarurumon are Light, Darkness, Thunder, Steel, and Water. I guess you can say that the black and purple are references to the Darkness and Steel spirits, but to me, it seems to suggest that we may be getting more dual color tamers and hybrids, or maybe even a straight up color swap, since the current JP we have is green, so we may be getting either a black-green JP or even a pure black JP. But I digress. We can sit here all day and speculate how much sauce BT18 support is going to be, but just looking at this card through the lens of BT17 and prior, this card is still sauce. Even putting aside the fact that this is another hybrid for yellow hybrid, this card is a really good card for the intended strategy of this AncientGarurumon deck as well. Just having another warper is really good, and Inherit that just draws a card is pretty cool as well, especially because Koji's effects require cards to be added to their hand, and you need the 5 hybrids in hand for the warp. Overall, I am going to say that this new Lobomon is sauce. Next up, we have the Beast Spirit of Light Kendogarurumon. Disclaimer, this card is not a Garurumon. Another dual colored hybrid that can evo on Koji, Lobomon, yellow tamers, or yellow or blue level 3s. This has a when attacking effect of draw 1, and then when attacking digivolve into a hybrid for 1 less cost. The intended combo here clearly seems to be to swing with a Kendo, draw 1, evo into the Lobomon for free, then Lobo effect to go into the AncientGarurumon. The inherit here is again to draw 1 if you have 7 or less cards, but just looking at the deck this is intended for, I do find it a little underwhelming. I feel like you can just skip this and go straight from the Lobomon into the AncientGarurumon if you're really going the warp route. I think since this card is yellow, a better effect would have been something like to add the top card of your security to your hand to bounce a level 4 or lower Digimon. I understand why it needs a draw 1 effect, but adding a removal effect similar to the raid on his counterpart Burning Grave would be very nice. And this way, by adding your security to your hand, you're still adding a card to your hand. I do think you still need to play this card in the deck to synergize with all of the combos, but it definitely is a little bit lacking. I want to say mid, but this show is unfortunately called Sauce or Loss, so for that reason I will have to give this a sauce rating, but more like mustard and less like the McDonald's McChicken sauce.
Wow!
In BT7, Bandai absolutely shafted us and gave us a Beowolfmon with no inheritable effect, while giving Aldomon freaking ADP. They finally did us Blue Hybrid Enthusiast justice and gave us an inheritable. But how does it compare to the Aldomon inheritables? Well, it just adds a level 4 lower Digimon card to your opponent's hand. This kind of inheritable may have been passable or even good in BT9 or BT10, but in BT17, it is a little underwhelming. I think if this card had an effect similar to the EX5 Garurumon antibody, and again leaned a little into the yellow with an effect like when attacking you may add the top card of your security to your hand to unsuspend, would add a good level of aggression to the deck. I do like his main effect to lock a Tamer or Digimon for suspending for the turn, similar to the Garurumon Ace of BT15 Metal Garurumon. Wow, I guess you could say my Garurumon bias is really showing here, but you know what they say, the ladies love Garurumon. Now, where the real problem lies with this card is that it costs 4 to evo on a level 4. The only way you can evo for cheap is to warp for 3 with a Lobomon and Kendogarurumon from your trash. This is BT7 all over again, where the deck needs cards in hand for most of its effects, then randomly some cards need your hybrids in your trash. This card is really counterproductive for the deck, and I would honestly just continue to play the BT7 Beowolfmon over here instead of this. Or you know what, hear me out. Maybe play that one of Jet Sophie here as your 5th level 5. This card is definitely a loss for the deck. Time to talk about the boss monster of the deck, AncientGarurumon. On play when digivolving, bouncing the lowest level is great, especially for single stack decks with no protection. Then when a card is added to either player's hands, they add the top card of their security to their hand, which is a powerful effect akin to the BT11 Mirage Gabubond. That is really nice, and you can swing for one more check after, but I feel that the aggression is really lacking on this deck with no inheritables or options that give you security attack +1 or unsuspends. It has an on-deletion effect to return a Tamer and Hybrid from trash to hand, then playing a Tamer, which is nice I guess, but a little bit weird because of the jamming. We're getting more and more effects that proc around all forms of removing the battle area, so that probably would have made more sense for this Digimon, such as adding to hand or getting sent to your security. It is a strong boss monster, but just lacking the aggression and control of other boss monsters in the game does make me wanting more. Unfortunately, I will have to give this card a loss. I do want to talk about the new Koji. This is a memory setter Koji, which is pretty cool for the deck. It also has the inheritable effect to gain 1 memory and jamming when you add a card by Digimon effect. This may be a little bit greedy, but I really wish this gained 2 memory like the BT12 Takuya. But honestly, that may be a little overtuned, and a testament to how overtuned that Takuya really was. The inheritable is a strict upgrade of the BT7 Koji, and hopefully in BT18 we just get a new Warp Koji so we can get rid of the BT7 one. I do think this card is sauce. The final BT17 card that needs to be talked about is the option card Ancient Protectors. This card is a 2 cost that lets you return a hybrid or 10 warriors from your trash to your hand, then play a 10 warrior or tamer with a cost reduced by 4. Playing your tamers for free is kinda cool, but there are options like Shining Blast and Final Shining Burst that don't see play with arguably better effects. Reducing the play cost of the AncientGarurumon by 4 is also a bit underwhelming. I am aware that you can stack this with the Digicross to make it essentially a 2 cost, but that's not true, is it? Because you're not including the 2 cost of the option, which will then make this a 4 cost. Also considering the fact that the AncientGarurumon does not have Rush, I really don't justify cutting valuable deck space for this option.
Now hold your horses there, War. I think forgetting this option works for both the red sides as well, so it's my turn to take a swing at it. Same explanation kind of applies for Ancient Grey. While it's a nice effect, it's a bit slow for what it does, and I'd run 2 at most. It's not a bad card, but it doesn't really elevate the deck to new heights.
Okay, but how about just regular old red hybrid? Do you think this card will see play there, with the ability to recycle your Emperors or other hybrids?
Oh god no, this card sucks in red hybrid. I'd never run this thing, it's way too slow. Mild sauce for Ancient, total loss for red hybrid.
I'm gonna have to agree there. I'm gonna say loss for Blue Hybrid and AncientGarurumon here. How do I feel about the new Koji, Blue Hybrid line, and AncientGarurumon? As a deck core, overall, I'm going to have to give this a loss. It can't seem to decide if it wants to be aggressive or to control the board, and it also can't seem to be consistent with if you want your hybrids in your hand or in your trash. There is potential for greatness here, especially with the upcoming BT18 support. However, just a lack of clear objective and identity really makes this deck suffer. I do think cards like the Koji and Lobomon themselves may see play in blue hybrid or yellow hybrid, or even the AncientGarurumon as a top end in other decks with more aggression. But as an overall deck, the way Bandai intended this to be played, I am unfortunately going to have to award the AncientGarurumon deck Team Case Hunter's very first lost trophy. 3 Digimon 5. Hey guys, this is Warfi2896 in post here. So, while this video was being edited, our very kind editor told me very nicely, and totally didn't call me an idiot, that Blue Hybrid is actually doing very well in Japan. I think I was a bit harsh on the AncientGarurumon card in particular, but the JP players really are showing some very unique builds by splashing in stuff like Red Hybrids and Leon Alexander, and of course, Ukamons. I do think it's a real testament to the versatility of this game and the creativity of its players, because I stand by that the deck core overall is a bit lacking, but the weaknesses of the core were patched very nicely with other cards to make strong decks. I will admit, however, that I was overall wrong, so I will be taking back the lost trophy and awarding it to myself this time. I asked for you to give me a shot at redemption, so tune in next time, sauce or loss.